There we go. All right.
Nick, is there something I should do to have a video?
You should be able to have one. You might just need to turn on, is there a little X across your video icon?
Just, oh, there's mute and there's 3 buttons. Let me see.
Here, try that.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks. I don't know what you did, but great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Happy birthday, by the way. That's exciting.
76.
Yeah.
Your birthday, Donna?
Yeah. Yeah. 3/4 of a
birthday.
century and then some.
You doing anything fun for it?
Oh, this is my big moment of the day.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you could join us.
Now you know what's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I had a conversation with my daughter this morning, like about an hour, and that's worth the world to me. So nothing I would want more. I'm heading up to Maine Friday.
Oh, nice. Okay. For the summer or?
Yeah.
Nice. There you go.
I've been,
Where are you?
I'm in Florida.
Oh,
I'm in Florida by Lake Okeechobee and the Caloosahatchee and all the dirty water down here. Mm.
yeah, Okeechobee is pretty rough.
It's a huge body of water. And yeah, it's too full right now. And so they're releasing the water early and it fills the canals before we're ready to take it on. There's a lot of concern down here about algae, just as you know, maybe even more than Sabattus Pond.
No, I bet there certainly is.
Yeah, there's the St. Lucie goes from Okeechobee to Miami, and the Caloosahatchee goes from Okeechobee to the West Coast, Fort Myers. So there's a lot of infiltration of dirty water. Oh, Chad's back. Hi, Chad.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, good. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right.
And
oh, yeah,
Georgia. Georgia's the woman from the road down off 132, right, Georgia?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, from Mass. Yep. The one from Massachusetts who's on Ralph Drive.
Right.
Apologies again for being off camera. I once again am driving.
Oh, no worries.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
All right, I think we can start though. It's about 6:04. I'll let anybody else in who joins after the fact, but I can start off with the updates that I've worked on since last meeting. Does that work?
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. So I followed up with a bunch of people from last week. After last week's meeting, I followed up with each of the county commissioners that represents the 5 different communities within the watershed. The only response that I received back from was from Garrett Mason, the one for Sabattus and Wales. And I have a phone meeting to talk with him on Monday about the watershed itself, just to kind of bring him up to speed about the research that I had done and like the work that we all are continuing to do now with outreach and engagement. I emailed Sally Christner. She's the county commissioner for Leeds, among other communities. Brian Ames, who is the county commissioner for Green, and then Joseph Petrosky Jr., who is part of the Kennebec County Commissioners, because he represents Monmouth as well. So I've reached out to all of them. I also reached out to the Androscoggin Soil and Water Conservation District. They are without a project or executive director of that nonprofit right now. So I did leave a voicemail and an email with Emma LaRusso. She's the project director there and seems to be the one in charge as of right now. I reached out to Franklin Sullivan. He's a research scientist at the University of New Hampshire. He's the one working in conjunction with Bates. And I'm still waiting to hear back from him. And I did follow up with Holly, the professor at Bates itself, again by email, to hopefully get some time to talk with her as well. I did receive an email back from a person I've been talking to at the Maine Department of Environmental Protections. Her name is Addie Halligan. She's an environmental specialist at the department, and she's within the Watershed Management Unit district. I had a bunch of questions that I was asking about the prior initiatives that they've done and some of the grant funding. But there is some really good news on that front. So grant funding, Sabattus Pond, because it's on the priority list at the state, like any work on the pond or watershed is available for what she described as a 604B grant, which is for regional planning agencies, councils of governments, and conservation districts. And also too, it's eligible for 19 grants, which I believe, Donna, you said you've had experience with like applying or getting funding for your road association, if I remember.
Right, to help us with the bylaws.
Yes.
Or the the constitution and bylaws, whatever. It's not bylaws, it's bylaws and something else. Anyway, the legal work, yeah, we got help paying for the lawyers.
Yeah, and yeah, that can definitely be an avenue to pursue too in the future. But it's a bunch of great information and all the steps to apply for it and stuff like that. So although maybe not ready to use right now, it is still good to have. I asked her too if she would be willing to like present to a group at one of our meetings, and she said she was 100% for it. She just said it probably wouldn't be until around September.
Okay.
So I will follow up with her again, and of course, I'm still talking to her about other questions and stuff that I've been having. So I'm just waiting on some responses back from her. And as of the brochure and stuff, we have to just kind of like think about messaging. And I was hoping we could talk about what type of messaging we want to communicate. I know we talked last week about potentially funneling people into a Facebook group, which kind of hinged on the name itself. And like an extension of that maybe being like an actual nonprofit organization or something that is responsible for this stuff is also a discussion to have too. But I can let Donna go forward with her updates because I know that she's been working hard too.
I contacted Eric Gagnon, Dan Correct here, Gary Sokolowski and Peter Rich, asking about what their thoughts were about the idea of flushing the dam, or what? Dam flushing, and if they were going to be replacing the dam, would we be having the lake down for the summer, or what kind of conversation was going on about that so far? And I think possibly from the information, well, Pete Rich wrote back first. He lives on Davis Road over near me on the lake. And he's the fellow that has been talking to Shaw Brothers in the gravel pit about using the lake for the gravel pit to use the resources, I guess, under the lake, and for storage. I'm not terribly sure as it what he's got in mind, but he wanted to have a coalition with Shaw Brothers and the drawing down of the lake and doing some dredging, and he'd like to see that done. But then I got communications from Dan and Gary that the drawdown of the lake is from a different time than when Pete thought it was. So Dan, maybe you could speak more intelligently than I about the drawing down of the lake and the repair of the sleeper dam.
Okay. The drawdown of the lake happens every year. October 1st through the 15th is when we start, and we draw the lake down 4 feet, and that's every year. When they decide to rebuild the dam, we're gonna have to start drawing it down in July. Because they have a very small window. They got from July to, or I think June until November. The permits to work in the water are only available for that period. So we would have to start drawing down sometime in July. And hopefully the dam will be completed by November.
Of what year? Of this year?
Not this year.
Of next year?
No, it's not happening this year. It's, I think it's slated for 2025. Because we don't have the funding. To start.
Mhm.
You know, we have to get the funding before we go out for quotes. And it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to go out for quoting this year. So we're thinking it's gonna be delayed till next year, which will make the project happen in 2025.
Dan, can I ask you a quick question? This is Georgia. I apologize again for not being on camera. I'm on Ralph Drive. Do you know if there's been any discussion on as to whether drawing down the lake during the hottest months and leaving it at an even more shallow level is going to maybe increase the algae? Not a scientist, so I have no idea. Maybe Nick knows. I'm just wondering.
I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if you lower the water level during the summer, that'll make the water warmer. We will have more algae because of it. But that's just my thought.
It also,
that would make sense to me.
yeah.
Has anybody indicated why they wouldn't try to do a project like that throughout the winter? It seems like it would be better for them to work on frozen ground.
The DEP won't allow it.
That figures.
There's a window every year that the DEP will allow permits for this type of work. And it starts in June, I believe, and ends in November.
I say, it just seems to make more sense that construction would be easier to do on hard ground.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But it's not about what makes sense. It's about
No, it's
what
government.
they feel. Yeah.
Did they give any specific reason of that? And Georgia, I can comment a little bit on your question too after.
Oh, great. Thanks, Nick.
Dan, did they give any specific reason as to why you couldn't do the permit in the winter or no?
I haven't heard a specific reason. I've just said that I've just been told that is their window for doing these projects.
Okay.
They did a job down in on the upper dam in Lisbon, and basically they had to be out of the water before November 1st, I think.
Okay.
Because after November 1st, they couldn't do any work. And the permit process is limited to that time.
Is there someone on the dam commission who's kind of like spearheading this engagement with the state or anything like that, or is it?
JD is mostly taking care of it. JD Anderson.
JD Anderson, okay.
He's secretary of the dam commission.
Okay. Do you think that I could reach out to him?
I think, yeah, I can reach out to him, no problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can speak to it because I'm the vice chair.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I would just be curious, like I am a little confused because I was on the emails that Donna had with you guys back and forth. is the gravel pit idea, or having a gravel company come in, would they then just jump in there right when the water level is drained and then would leave after that construction's done? I guess.
That I don't know. I to do any benefit, you'd have to be in there in the center of the lake, where all of the phosphorus rich soils are.
Yeah.
That's
was
another thing. Lowering the lake a great deal exposes all of that soil. It uncovers it, so it gets to dry out. And from what I've been told, when you rehydrate that water, it automatically, or when you rehydrate that soil, it automatically releases phosphorus.
Okay.
So that normally, that's why we're only drawing down 4 feet. The clays, all of that soil is, we don't expose much of it.
Yeah.
It's mostly gravel where we're exposing. But in order to get deeper into the lake, you have to take that soil out. The gravels are close to shore. If you in the shallow water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why would you want to take that out? And you don't want to take it out close to shore, because it takes away. It opens it up when you refill it. It opens the shoreline to erosion.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was definitely some of my concern too. In
That's all gravel.
the aspect of irradiating the water to kill all of the fish in a.
I haven't heard that one. I just heard it on an email in our email string.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just curious as to why that method is being pursued. Was it Gary that was talking about that, Donna? I'm sorry, I don't have the email up.
Peter Rich.
Peter Rich, okay. I would definitely like more information about that. Just I don't know if it's Dan. Would you be able to get him to maybe come to a meeting and talk about it a little bit, or something like that? The specifics.
Peter Rich?
He wouldn't know Peter Rich. Peter Rich is on my road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's the one that's been talking to me about it, and apparently he's got some connection with Shaw Brothers from the gravel pits. So I don't quite understand what he has in mind. I did, of course, invite him to communicate with us via this channel, but so far he hasn't joined us. But I'll encourage him to join us and clarify what his perspective is.
Yeah, no, I'm just interested and a little concerned too, because the using he said he mentioned storage as well, like the gravel company would use the area for storage, and I just don't understand, I guess, what that means. And if they have such a short,
what?
yeah, and if they have such a short window when the lake is going to be lowered, and they would jump in there and then leave 2 months later is my understanding of it, but
Yeah,
I just don't know. But
it's mysterious.
Yeah.
I like a novel idea, but it's not clarified.
And then he mentions about the 5-acre gravel pit, which doesn't need a permit. But we have a nearly 2,000-acre lake. I don't see what 5 acres of excavating is going to do.
yeah, besides a road, the barrier between the aquifer that's underneath it, and then yeah.
But, I would think if you're going to do something like that, if you're going to dredge the lake, you want to be out in the center.
And also too,
where the sediments are, and take the sediments out.
Yeah, and unless they have more data than I do, or have more data about the external phosphorus loading, if that's not kept in check and we don't, like, there's no point of doing any of this yet unless you stop the external phosphorus from entering the system anyways. So I mean, yeah, so I just don't know what that is, but we can follow up with that. Donna, if you're okay with it, I'll send an email. Can I send an email to Pete from that email chain and just ask some clarifying
Yeah,
questions?
when you put your info out on the Facebook page, he did answer that he was interested. So he has opened the door for you to contact him.
Oh yeah, no, he is on the email list, and I have corresponded with him a little bit before,
Oh,
I
okay.
think. But I'm gonna respond back to him on that email chain that you had us on, and
Okay.
just ask some clarifying questions. But I'll do that for next time. So let me just note that down real quick.
Does that sound good
Nick,
to you? I was just wondering, Ken, you're the one that brought this up, I think, about dredging the lake. Is that right?
Well, I had mentioned something about how low they're gonna let the water down as a possibility of just changing the water. But it doesn't sound like that's gonna work, because if you uncover all that soil and release more phosphorus when you fill it back up, it may or may not be beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go back into the 80s, they used to do the drawdown, and it was capable of draining down 9 feet. We've stopped that because we found out that about the soils being rehydrated, releasing phosphorus. So
Well, that somewhat makes sense. You know, it's
yeah,
like take a dirty sponge and put it back in the water. You release all the
right.
stuff that's in it.
Yeah, and you know, we found out that in New Jersey, in certain swamps, they would drain the water in the swamp, let it dry out, and then refill it in order to make more algae, because their swamps were for waterfowl, and that's what they were managed for. So in order to increase the algae in the swamps, or in these,
They wanted a swamp.
Yeah.
what they wanted.
Well, like I say, it somewhat makes sense, because when you dry out the soil, the only thing coming out is the water. And you're
Right.
leaving everything else behind, so it can't go anywhere until you flush it out again.
Yeah. So when you rehydrate it, it
just pops out.
It pops out.
And
one year when the water was drawn down, I had a whole lot of like seaweed on my shore. And I don't know if it was good enough, but we removed it all and used it for compost up in the garden. But I don't know if that was a good thing to remove the seaweed.
Yeah, it's a good thing to remove it, because if you leave it, it just decays and it becomes more phosphorus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that something that would make sense, is when we draw down the lake to have some cleanup?
Yeah, sure. Hey, years ago, my father used to collect all the seaweed that he could get from Long Beach and throw it in his garden.
So we rake out at least a truckload of grass and crud out in front of our place every year.
Yeah, now remember, we have a very productive lake. So if the algae actually slows down the growth of the aquatic plants. So like when I was a kid, we'd be out water skiing, and the boat would get tied up in weeds, and of course you wouldn't be water skiing anymore until the boat could clear the propeller, and then you could go skiing again. Again, that's when I was a kid. That's back in the
gotta put it in reverse to do that.
Yeah, you got to put it in reverse, but you can't ski when the boat's in reverse.
No, that doesn't work.
Dan and Nick, this is Georgia again. I just have a quick question. Does it appears this might be a statement, not a question. It appears that maybe there could be some more discussions with the DEP regarding the dam project and the permitting, because on the one hand, they've designated Sabattus as a priority lake that needs remediation. And on the other hand, they only will allow the permit for the hottest months, which is going to exacerbate the problem. So Nick, what are your thoughts about talking to the DEP about that?
Getting them to change their mind about the
Government?
permitting window?
I guess anything's possible.
I agree.
Or at least getting the rationale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that is, I mean, I'm more than willing to talk to them. I would just want to make sure it's okay with the dam commission, because it seems like they're the ones spearheading that.
Yes,
but I
definitely.
and like that could be when Dan, when you reach out to the secretary, I mean, I would definitely love to talk to him about that process, just to get an idea of like how that is. There like, because I emailed him for the notes of like the meeting minutes, and I haven't received a response back.
Really?
Is that
Yeah.
Anderson?
Yeah.
I'll call him.
Yeah, just because I want to get familiar with that process of what's going on, and just so I can wrap my head around that, just because right now it's a lot of confusion. And Georgia, to your previous question, a lot, so reducing the depth of the lake would certainly exacerbate the amount of algae that like propagates throughout it during those months. Mainly because the amount, and it also increases the danger for deoxygenation, because there's less water for there to be oxygen within. So you would have a big burst of algae and then a quick death of algae, and then a very high risk for deoxygenation of the pond that does still have water in it.
Which could cause it to go hypoxic, right?
Yeah. And like that was my concern with the irradiation of the fish to kill them and to kind of like start over. It's kind of like we really want to try to avoid that complete ecosystem collapse. We don't want to be the one to do that, because like I've said before, it has very cascading effects. And there's no guarantee that just throwing more fish back in once the water level's up, that they will, be able to take hold. There's much more to an ecosystem than just putting fish in the water. And irradiating the water to kill the fish humanely was what from I gathered, and to get rid of invasive species. There's much more in that water. You can't just fill up a pond, or you just can't fill up your backyard with water and throw fish in it and have them thrive. That's just not going to work.
Right.
So I definitely, for next time, I will reach out to them and see if I can get more clarification on that plan. My concern it was like already approved and ready to go. That does not seem to be the case, so I'm a lot less worried about that now. And
I've never heard of it, Nick.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to Dan for attending
Absolutely.
the meeting, because this is so informative. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Dan. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah, the irradiating thing. I know of ponds that have been irradiated to get rid of whatever was in it, but those were mostly closed systems, small ponds. When you do that, like in our case, you'd have to go in there and I remember the name of it was basically a fertilizer that kills the fish.
Yeah.
And it's nearly instantaneous. While they're pouring it in, the fish are trying to get out of the water. But it's a closed system. It has infeed, but very little outflow.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, if you put it in our
Everything
lake,
froze.
yeah, it would flow down the river hit the Androscoggin into Merry Meeting Bay. And it'd be diluted, of course, but it'd still be there.
Mhm.
So that may kill fish
They're not mixed
that
back.
they don't want to die. So I just don't see them doing it to Sabattus Pond.
Yeah, I'll never say never, I guess, but yeah, I definitely would like to see the plan that they're referring to. So I can
Yeah.
I'll follow up with Rich and see what he's talking about there, and then next meeting hopefully have an update for you, for all of you. Does anybody have any questions of kind of what we discussed about, or any ideas or anything else they want to talk about before we move on to the names or potential names for us?
Just that it sounds like maybe it would be helpful to put more of our emphasis on identifying the phosphorus points going into the lake than the eradication.
That was the idea behind the free 319 grants that we received back in, Nick, you know the years.
Yeah.
90s.
No,
No, they
This
ended
is
in
2000?
2013. Yeah, the last one ended in 2013. There was 3 of them, I think.
there was 3. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and,
I mean,
and
you guys did a lot of work with erosion, and I did see some partnership with some local community and road associations too, to build up culverts and things like that.
Yeah.
I did see some work with farmers too, but like I said,
that's even earlier. That's in the 80s,
yeah,
late 70s, 80s. There was a lot of work. There's all of the farms that used to surround the lake are no longer farming.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But they have lawns. They have
They do.
lawns, yeah.
They still have fields, and like Sanborn still haze. Yeah, but it's not heavy farming like it used to be.
Yeah, historically, there's been a very sharp decline over the last 50 years for farming, specifically around the lake and within the watershed, which is a positive thing, minus the cultural aspect that was lost. But that accounting of, like, who still is farming, who's still using how much fertilizer, and what type of fertilizer, it still needs to happen before, like, really anything can be effective, like dredging or any chemical component like an alum treatment, or anything like that. And that was my worry and concern with the plan to move forward, that it was already approved and ready to go, which it does not seem to be right now, as far as I know.
No.
So I think this is great stuff for conversation, but like the working with the farms and stuff, that is definitely going to come. It's just probably going to come a bit later. Does that make sense? Sorry.
Well, I don't believe there are any working farms left.
I think there's some on
Yeah.
the whale side.
Yeah,
Well, there's no cattle. They don't have any
No.
cattle anymore. Do they?
There's a horse farm.
Well, that's true.
There's 2 of them in Wales. And then the Amish farm
Mhm.
is right on the Feeder River. They're right on Hooper Stream. No, they're on Dead River, not on Hooper. But it doesn't matter. Those 2 streams feed into the lake.
Nick, have you talked to the owners of the horse farm?
No, so not yet. I have a list of farm stakeholders, and I have a running list of many different types of stakeholders right now. And like I want to make sure we get our like organization ducks in a row first before we start reaching out to pull more people in. I think that's important.
Okay.
But yes.
Well, they are lovely. His name is Nicholas, so you might be able to remember. His name is Nick.
Okay.
And he's a great neighbor.
Is that the one on 132, or is it the one?
The Everlasting Dream, or the it's got some funny name of everlasting wish or unexpected something. It's the unexpected farm.
Yeah.
There's one on Bull Run, either Bull Run or Station Road. It's the same road, just depends on what town it's in. It used to belong to the Wentworths.
Mhm.
And from what I understand, it's getting ready to turn into a solar farm.
Oh,
Yeah. I think Waterman's is too in Sabattus.
Waterman's, really?
Yeah,
Davison is.
Davis's is, yeah. I thought I saw something in the planning board notes the other day. I may be
Well,
wrong.
no phosphorus from a solar farm.
None, which is nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking at the farms right now. It looks like there's Rocket Man Ranch. Another horse farm. Yeah. I mean, I did some work this summer for a nonprofit where I was driving around to farms in Maine, and I know I stopped at a couple in Green. I just got to find my notes from back then. But yeah, awesome. Are we okay to move on to talking about names for us? And does anybody have any ideas? Drafted up anything from last time? I got an email from Donna about one from her.
How about the
Oh.
Sabattus Pond Association, sustain and maintain?
Okay.
Sounds good too.
I'd go with Sabattus Pond Watershed Partnership, but it's an old name.
it's a little too
mine?
too
you get
much of a
mine?
mouthful.
Yeah.
Who did I interrupt?
The Sabattus
Sorry.
Pond, or Sabattus Pond Recovery Group.
Recovery. Sorry, I'm typing these down.
Okay.
And Georgia, what was the slogan you had? I have the Sabattus
Oh,
Water-
sustain and maintain.
Sustain and maintain. I do like that. Sustain, maintain. Perfect. Georgia.
I would skip the association. It has
I know that scares people off.
yeah, it's got bad
It sounds corporate.
Yeah.
well, it's if you go back in history, but that it was a divisive association.
How?
Oh, I remember.
And then Dan, what was your suggestion? You said Sabattus Ponds.
Sabattus Pond Watershed Partnership. Donna, you know that name.
Yeah, it's too much of a mouthful.
Yeah, that's fine. I
How
just
about-
threw it out there.
Chad, did you say something too?
I didn't, I'm just
No.
in
No,
listening.
I had sent you an email, Nick, about Sabattus Pond Recovery Group.
Oh, okay. Sabattus Pond. I apologize. I did not see that. Let me look real quick.
It's kind of short and sweet and get to the point.
It is, yeah.
Well, one thing, I think it was you, Nick, that said, when somebody suggested save Sabattus Pond, you thought that we should somehow bring in the ideological concept that it's not just a one-time rescue. It's an ongoing endeavor to keep the pond clean or fresh or healthy.
Yeah, there's this thing that's rapidly evolving, and in the next 30 years, it's supposed to be one of the biggest employment markets in the country and around the world, called ecosystem services. It's like a transition from like living around your environment or existing within it to like a co-partnership with it in a way. And this maintenance of these social ecological systems that feed into all of our lives every single day is much more relevant and prevalent than we, I guess, have been treating it in the past. That's how we have these problems to begin with in a way. And at that point was more or less just like, is more or less like a syntax thing. Like, I think it is very important to kind of like, it's not like it's like not a one and done thing. And I definitely agree with like avoiding like maybe the more technical language. but I do, how about like a Sabattus Pond Watershed Project? And then I really do like her, Georgia's slogan,
So do
sustain
I.
and maintain. And I think that that's pretty easy to grasp. And I think it really also has those subtle hints of what I was referring to as well. How does everybody feel about that? Sabattus Pond Watershed Project instead of association?
Um,
Maybe a different word other than project?
I'm not sure I understand how you're incorporating George's idea.
Oh, I just because you guys had spoken about kind of moving away from the word association. So
So
switching out this.
how would you put in saying sustain and maintain? What are you
Oh,
thinking?
that's her slogan, I think, right? That's the slogan, Georgia. Yeah, that would just be.
Just
Yeah.
those 3 words, no Sabattus?
Oh, no. So the actual name of our organization, from my understanding, would be Sabattus Watershed Project or Association right now. And then just the slogan of our group would just be sustain and maintain, which is like a tagline. It's just important to have. Yeah. You can put it on promotional material and stuff like that. You're muted.
I appreciate the wariness about the word association. So project sounds good.
yeah, it does.
It'll look good on a t-shirt.
That's a thought.
All right. Do you guys want to vote on it? Is that a thing? Or Ken, do you have any thoughts? I do like the recovery group, your suggestion as well. It's just more, I think that once the recovery is done, there's still, like work to do.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more work to do.
Yeah.
That was just something that popped into my head the other night.
No, yeah.
I like the project too.
All right. So we have Sabattus Pond Watershed Project. Is everybody okay with that? You guys want to vote?
No, I'd like to get more input from other people. Can
Okay.
we have like those 3 ideas and put it on an agenda for next time?
Yeah.
I mean, I like all of them, but it just seems like it's a very small number of us naming something that will have a lot of ongoing importance.
Mhm.
Wait,
How about an email out to the email list, asking people to like send their thoughts on it, those 3 names? I mean, I could create a Facebook group, like I said, but it's kind of like and have a voting thing, but I would just create it with a different name, I guess, you know what I mean? But
placeholder name.
yeah, but then we have to like get people to join that one and then vote on it there too. So maybe the email list might be good, but we have 3. So the Sabattus Pond Watershed Project, and then the Sabattus Pond Recovery Group, and then what was the third one you'd like to see?
Well, the one I sent you, it was just a play on what we talked about. Who was it that said save Sabattus Pond? Somebody last time.
I did.
Okay.
I think I did.
So then I was thinking, if you use the word saving Sabattus Pond, it has more of an ongoing into the future concept as opposed to save and with an end game of just saving it. So I know so I put in saving Sabattus Pond.
Okay. I can send out an email. I can send out an email with those 3 names, and then we can ask for input from the group as a whole, and then see where that gets us. And then, so for next meeting, it does. And then next meeting we can just decide on one based on that input. Does that work?
And we want to get started on it so that we can have a name to add to the Facebook page or add to a.
Yeah, to start creating those like central hubs, those communication hubs. Yeah. And then like we can do brochures. I can do a design for a logo. We can start doing stuff like that too. That works though. That's good. Okay, I'll send out an email for that stuff. Great. Does anybody have anything else? I did have one last thing to talk about, but does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up or discuss? We're about 15 minutes out.
I'll just bring up one thing. I'd mentioned last week that at some point we're going to need to get a little bit more organized. So in terms of the entity that would be applying for grants, Nick, are you thinking that it would be the Watershed Project organized as a 501c3?
Yeah. So that was actually what I wanted to talk about too.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I was gonna make I guess a pitch for something much more official. And I understand that we want to kind of keep it loose, but in order to if we're gonna do this, I think we should really do this, and to have access to funding as a nonprofit would be huge. And all you need is 3 board members and then just an executive director, and then you can form your membership or committees underneath that by whatever you lay out in bylaws and stuff. And I think securing that would be very advantageous for what we're all trying to do. I think it would legitimize us in the eyes of elected officials and other organizations.
Yep.
And I think it would give you all a lot more weight than just a looser collection of or an informal institutional arrangement. But just something to think about. We definitely need a name first. Does anybody want to have any discussion on that? Like pros and cons about that? Any hesitation?
Well, did you say it was a 503c? Is that what you? Okay. And
501c3.
501c3. Okay.
Yeah.
Chad was trying to say something. Chad, do you want to weigh in?
What was brought up as a whole, I'm curious what's going on with Sabattus Mountain. It looks like there's some clear cutting. I guess it's just curiosity. I don't know. I look up one day and all of a sudden half the mountain's cut. Does anybody know what's going on?
They're cutting trees.
Tremendously. It almost looks like the ski area. Caught me off guard.
Yeah.
So,
It's right across from our place.
I don't know
Curious what they
who
were
owns
doing.
it.
They're gonna develop the hill or what?
So it's not on the water?
No.
No, it's the hill behind the other side of 132.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if there's an impact, honestly, but I look out my front window and I see it, and it seemed like it happened pretty quick.
It
So-
did happen quick, and
It's
it
over the
does
past couple
impact
of
the
weeks.
lake.
What?
More erosion.
It does impact the lake
It will.
because and all that heavy rain we've had,
Mm.
all of that exposed soil ran across. The water ran across 132 and was the little pond over there was brown.
Sabattus Mountain is partially within the watershed itself. Anything on that side that's facing the lake that hits that and then runs down it does end up in Sabattus Pond. And removal of any type of vegetation anywhere in the watershed is going to have an impact. I mean, I'm talking even if you pull up a plant in your backyard, it's going to have an impact. So definitely clear cutting half of Sabattus Mountain. And I haven't seen it. Chad, would you mind taking pictures of it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then maybe we might want to, someone might want to reach out to the Wales, the town of Wales. Their local government may have information on who got those permits to do that.
I'll ask Gary about it. Eric.
Okay.
He's a selectman.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah.
I may have already taken a picture. I may have one. Check real quick.
Yeah, especially with the heavy rain that you guys have all received in the last 2 weeks, that's substantial. No specifics on how substantial, but it's certainly impactful.
Yeah, it wasn't even the rain we just had is nothing compared to the rain we had. Well, we got 5.5 inches in a day.
Wow.
Back in April. March or April.
April, or I think it was in May. Wasn't
might
that
have-
long ago.
Well, the lake came up 3 or 4 inches over the weekend.
Oh, that's a little storm. After this storm, the lake came up 2 feet, and then it went over the top by 8 inches. Because we were 2
Wow.
feet down before the rain. So that was, that was in April, early May.
Yeah, it filled up quick.
It filled up quick.
Glad I got my dock in before that happened.
That's a great observation, Chad. That honestly, and that's the type of stuff that just keep an eye out for. Anything, I mean, there's a lot of things that impact the pond itself.
So you can look at the Sabattus Lake Marina post that I did
Okay.
on the Facebook, Sabattus Lake Marina, and you can see the start of it. I didn't even know this was going on May 27th when I took the picture. It's tremendously changed even since then.
Well, it's all the way down on Access Road too, because like I say, we're get on the lake off Access Road, and there's a lot of stuff cut across the street.
Yeah, that's where all the cutting is. From Sanborn Farm, between Sanborn Farm and Mountain Road.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you see that, Nick?
I do. Yeah, I see it.
So if
Looks
you
like it's-
look directly above where my posts are for the end of the dock and go straight up,
Yep.
that rightmost hump,
Yep.
you'll see it's just starting then.
You
It's,
can see the road. Yeah.
oh, and it's tremendously different even today.
Wow. Okay.
It wasn't as recognizable then as it is today.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a great spot right there. Or find, yeah. If you have more recent pictures, please definitely send them to me. And that not like it's not like we're trying to, stop people from conducting business, but maybe just we need more
That's like,
information, I guess. on it. Yeah.
Could it be is it CMP?
I don't know. Is it CM? Does anybody know
No.
who it is? No.
No, that's not
Yeah.
CMP. I think
CMP
it's-
wouldn't take out the CMP would go up across the top of the hill, not take out the face of the hill.
Yeah, but there's no power lines anywhere around it,
Nothing.
and they're not running a power line.
The best angle probably is in front of George's house, probably 100 yards towards the center of the lake. It's almost looking like a ski area. I found another picture I took from my place, and it doesn't look as pronounced.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did? Yeah.
and I think it's even worse now.
Okay, well, Dan, you're going to talk to Eric about that?
I'll ask them what's going on.
Great.
Then we can move on to we can reach out to Wales too after that.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask is selectman from Wales.
Oh, Eric. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Perfect. Great. All right. Anything else? I'll reach out to Pete Rich for more information. I'll send that email out with the names, the 3 names, asking just the email list for any of their input. And then next week we decide on a name and then start to move forward with the stuff. Just be thinking about the nonprofit status and stuff like that in the meantime, and we'll readdress it next week or our next meeting. And I definitely think it's the smart move forward, but we can of course discuss it again next week.
South of the boat.
Are we okay with meeting again next Wednesday? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Should you put anything about the discussion of the 503C into the email that you're sending so that we can kind of seed the idea with other people too? Personally, I'm 100% behind you that we
Yeah, I was
should
gonna say-
incorporate.
I think it makes a ton of sense. Be as legitimate as possible. so people
Yep.
take it serious. So I don't see any reason not to myself.
Okay. No, I agree. I can highlight it, and then I have the full recording this time, so I'll make sure to link all that as well. So I'll send a follow-up email right after this with the video recording if somebody wants to watch it, and then the information about the 3 names and the input, and then just a highlight of our position on moving towards a nonprofit status and incorporation. So in that way,
Nick, I've got one more
does anyone-
question.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, does anyone know how to apply or go through the 501?
503C.
Yeah, whatever.
I think you just get a lawyer. I think it's like $1,000 and they do it in like 2 weeks. It's not a big deal. I've started a bunch of companies. That's my guess. I don't know. Never a
Georgia-
nonprofit.
Georgia is a lawyer, correct?
I'm licensed in Mass, but I can figure it out.
I've helped a friend start a
Oh.
nonprofit too. So
So George is a little gem in the rough here, huh?
My only question, Nick, was the people that you've talked to so far and the people who haven't responded, it'd be helpful to have that in a list. And you've done so much work, and I don't want to even ask you to do any more work, but just knowing who these players are and who's responded would be really helpful.
absolutely, I can do that. Yeah, I have it ready to go. Honestly, I just got to put it into. Do you want it in Excel or does that work?
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
Is that chart that you showed us last week?
So that is just still evolving. And yeah, it's essentially I pull from there. And I have all my notes and stuff in there as well. So I can just create a list about people who I have yet to respond back to me, or who haven't responded back in quite some time, and then we can kind of go from there. That's also some of my like urgency to try to get an affiliate, like an official thing, because like if it's just me just reaching out as like a a researcher or something, it has less weight than we are a collection of stakeholders. Here's our name and nonprofit status. So that also is there too.
I got a question, Nick.
Yeah.
So we're looking at establishing, for lack of a better name, a lake group, a lake association, correct? With memberships and all that. Okay. Now, I've been through this before.
Mhm.
When we formed the Sabattus Pond Watershed Partnership, we got the addresses of every resident of the lake.
Oh, right. And we sent out brochures, or we sent out newsletters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was when people still did USPS.
yes.
No,
Yeah,
that
that was back in, I would say 99, 2000.
Yeah.
so there is a UPS service or a US Postal Service that you just go and you can actually click. You can actually add in just the areas that you want to grab, and you can actually just send out mass emailers or mass mailers to everybody. So that's definitely something that we can do. That just doesn't require funding, but you can get grants to cover those types of things, like outreach and engagement. Like that's an important aspect of it. So yeah, no, it's a great idea.
Another thought that I just had too, can we get Chad and maybe whoever else is on the Lake Association Facebook pages to kind of put a little blurb in their site to try to draw more people in till we actually get our own?
Yeah, I could put a link on the next Zoom meeting if Nick approves it, if you guys all approve it.
And I'm thinking
That's Marina page.
you've already got the Facebook page. I'm assuming that's a fair amount of people looking at it.
Not
Just
a
another
ton,
contact.
275 or something. There's the Sabattus Lake Fishing one might be the biggest. I think they've got, I don't know, 3,000, or they've got a tremendous following. And then there's a couple other ones, the Yacht Club, and there's, I think one's Sabattus Lake Partners or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's mine.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
And the
yours is
Sabattus
not-
Watershed
Yours is not, Nick, yours isn't the yacht club?
No,
No,
Yacht Club is Gary Ham, who's on over by the sandbar.
Yeah, Peanuts Island.
What is it? Peanuts Island?
Peanuts, there used to be an island there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was,
it's only 2 or 3 feet deep. I've been out there with my kayak.
well, there was an island there, and then someone who, the island was in front of their property, went out and cut down all the trees, and it only took a couple of years for the lake to take the rest of it.
Well, it's all sand there, so
So
I didn't know that.
when you took down the trees, the lake quickly took it.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of boats that hit that.
Oh, mine's one of them. Found out the hard way.
Okay, before we close, can we meet Anthony Benedetti?
Yeah, sorry I'm so late. I was just finishing up a work meeting. So I live
He's my partner.
Oh.
That's my guy.
Okay. 2 gems.
been emailing Nick regularly, and I haven't made one meeting. And I said, even though this one's almost over, I'm going to jump on and just so people see me, and I'm definitely interested.
perfect. I have the full recording this time, so I'll send it out after this. Awesome. Is everybody all set to close out? And then I'll send out the meeting link for next week as well. Same time, same date, or Wednesday, okay? 6 o'clock.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that works.
Awesome. Great work, everybody. It's good to see you. I'll see you next week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll
Thanks.
email you throughout the week.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
Good night, everybody.
Good
night.
night.
Night.